Alright, YouTube, October 5th, 2016, 8:41 a.m. Central Time. Didn't think I was going to make this video as early as I did. Not, time-wise, but in the grand scheme of thing, type of time-wise. Time-wise. I thought I would be making this video maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years from now. But it's been a week without using nicotine. So let me give you a bit about what I was doing. So I was smoking regularly from September 2013 to, I want to say, I'm thinking here. I want to say probably that summer. And then I didn't really touch anything again. I was underage, so I was 16 smoking. I quit when I was 17. What I would do is I would basically pay my friend, who would then give that money to someone of age who would buy a pack, and then he was basically a middleman. It was his coworker. And that's how he got cigarettes too. Well, for a while, until he got a job at a grocery store in town, the town north of here. Excuse me. Then I turned 18 in November of 2014. I didn't do anything for about a month. Not actually 2 months. So it was about January 2015. I started smoking again. My friends, Ryan, Antonio, and I, we sometimes would smoke like those little shitty cigarillos. And eventually I got hooked on those, and it was to the point where I was starting to fear for my health. I probably quit that sometime in March, but I legitimately felt not healthy. Sorry, I dropped my phone. It fell in my pocket. And what was happening was I couldn't take deep breaths anymore. I was a senior in high school at this point. And I remember just sitting in my French class. I used to be like a big amorphous blob at this time. And I couldn't breathe. And I was thinking to myself, like, holy shit, I really need to stop this, but I don't want to give up nicotine, but I really do not feel okay. There were these, me and my friends, we used to get like these cigarillos. They weren't swishers, but they were called jackpots. They had different flavors, right? Like, they'd have peach and blueberry. I usually got the blueberry. And what I think was happening is because, with cigarillos, they basically dip it in some, like, flavored syrup, the wrapping paper. And I think what was happening is I was actually having, like, sugar that was burnt, like, crystallized in my lungs. I probably still have remnants of it today, but then I started smoking after that. Again, I was going down to American Spirit, like Ultra Lights. And then after that, Ryan, my best friend, his girlfriend at the time, now his ex, she bought him a vape, and I was using it at his house, and they said, well, why don't you get a vape? You smoke a little too much anyway, because they used to smoke with me, and they were a little freaked out. So I was like, okay. So I went and I got like the little starter pack. You get like the tiny ass little vape pen, and they give you like a free juice that they throw in there. It was some type of menthol flavor. That's basically all I vaped anyway. And I'll get into that shortly. And from then on, I probably, if I calculated this correctly, I will have, if I if I was correct, it's probably 1 year and 7 months, so just barely over a year and a half I was vaping. So I want to say like I was just shy of 4 years basically using nicotine, and I would smoke, infrequently at this time too. Like, if I had a friend who would come into town from Illinois, he switched completely to smoking. So I'd smoke with him if he wanted to. And other times, like this one time, I was 6 months into vaping after I quit smoking. I was still in college at the time, and I was sitting in a chemistry class, or lecture, whatever. And what I remember was just this snap of a thought, just like flash of a second thought just popped in my head. It was like, you need a cigarette, you need a cigarette, you need a cigarette. I ran out of the class, I got the vape in my car, and I just started going on it and going to town, just inhaling. And it just this want feeling, it just wasn't going away. So after 3 hours of this torture, like constantly, my brain's telling me you need a cigarette, I gave in. I went to a gas station. I got gas at, and I bought a pack of American Spirit Ultralights, and at this time I was vaping a nicotine dosage that was higher than a light cigarette. If anything, it'd be akin to like a highly packed, unfiltered cigarette, what I was vaping. So it didn't do anything, so I just threw the pack away. But it was madness. It was insane. And I do want to give the reason I quit vaping, right? Back in March, I told my mom, because she really didn't like it, I told my mother if this certain set of circumstances occurred, I would quit vaping. And with the level of candor I try to keep on this channel, there are some things that I will not ever discuss, these certain set of circumstances being one of them. So these set of circumstances happened, and about a month in now, since they've happened, I ran out of juice, and I just said, you know what, I guess I'm going to quit. The only drawbacks I've had since a week now, the first day without it was bad. Now, it wasn't as bad as like a cigarette fit, but keep in mind, I was vaping probably half a medium-sized tank full of 24 milligrams. And it wasn't like I was vaping like with a pen. I was vaping with a box mod that had a different tank. It wasn't a default tank, and it was like a gas guzzler of tanks. I don't know how I was vaping like straight 24 milligrams out of it, and with such great frequency. I mean, I must have been, vaping more concentrated quantities of nicotine, because I think once my friend made some, or a former college classmate made some that had like 30 milligrams in it. He made it himself, and I loaded it up and just vaped away on it. I'm actually kind of lucky with the amount, not with the amount it was, but with the amount I vaped with that high of a level of nicotine. I think it might actually be a miracle or a blessing that I didn't get nicotine poisoning to the point where I had to be sent to the hospital. The most I got was a bit of a headache, but it wasn't anything even approaching like cigarette or nicotine sick. where you just feel like you're going to vomit. And when I was vaping, kind of like how people have a pack of smokes and that's the only pack they smoke. Some guys like Winston, some guys like Marlboros, some guys like Newports. I vaped. Well, when I was smoking, I'd smoke either American Spirits or Winston Reds. I hated Marlboros, but I would vape this juice called Lucid. It's an e-juice called Lucid. Apparently it's made in Japan, and they ship it over to California, and from California, they basically distribute it to a bunch of head shops across the country. I never went to vape shops, and I'll get into that later. I just didn't like the whole vape culture thing. So I get this stuff, get it like 3 bottles at a time. Pretty good price, at least in Indiana, for the quantity. It was larger than other bottles, and I think it was fairly priced. One of these bottles would be about $7, and they're not gigantic, but they're not small by any means either. Sorry. But I was actually concerned because they're from Japan. I was like, what if my tonsils glow in the dark because of the radiation, and because I've been consuming like undocumented radioactive uranium isotopes or something because of fallout from Fukushima or something. So, if I do get cancer of the throat or mouth, I'm definitely going to sue Lucid. But the challenges I face is, I work in the automotive industry, and that typically has a stereotype attached to it that they're all smoking grease monkeys. And they all smoke. Besides my manager, everybody smokes, and the fumes of the smoke, they get to me. I really want it. And when there's downtime, they'll go out of the bay in the back of the shop because they don't want the customers seeing people smoke. And I'll just go back there to talk with them, but the smell, it's just tempting. And there's been 2 times where I've almost said, like, hey, so-and-so, can I bum a cigarette off of you? But ever since I've been going to the gym with my friend, I've made it a point to cut it out of my life. I'll update this next week when it's been 2 weeks, hopefully. I'm hoping. That's about it, YouTube. Peace out. If you're quitting too, stay strong.